Josh and Frankie. What a couple of dumb shits. What you gonna do about it, huh? What you gonna do about it? What you gonna do?
Hello, Primates! You found Primates Tracks. Congratulations! There are other places to find Primates Tracks if you so choose, such as at Primates Tracks on Instagram and Threads. PrimateSTracksPod@gmail.com is the email address, should you choose to contact us through that medium. There is also a Facebook page. It is also called Primates Tracks, and you can see posts of all kinds, images, and words from the one and only maestro of Primates Tracks Towers. He is up there on the 39th floor, and he is joining us today yet again, deigning to join the Primates down here on the ground. It is Frankie Berestein.
Hey, Josh.
Hi, Frankie. It's the new look, Frankie Berestein, for the Primations watching the video. Your video quality is severely upgraded.
It's much better, right?
Your forehead has never looked better.
Absolutely.
And also, Video Primatrons got a view of Frankie's entire face for just a few seconds, a fleeting glance. You got to keep him wanting more. I think that's the right way to go, Frankie. I might start doing that, shrouding myself.
You should.
Slowly revealing. Today we are talking about Hip Shot From The Slab, from your Big Eyeball in the Sky record, the one and only record by Colonel Claypool's Bucket of Bernie Brains. Before we talk about that track, Frankie, which marks right around the halfway point of the album, we have some miscellaneous debris, and it's hot off the press at the time of this recording. Frankie, do you like flying 8 hours to another country to pretend you're in the United States, in the lap of luxury?
Absolutely.
Oh, then you're in luck, because announced today is a destination festival titled Tool in the Sand. In March of 2025, the following bands will be at a resort in the Dominican Republic, March 7th, 8th, and 9th, to play music for the people who can brave the trek and brave their bank accounts to join them in República Dominicana. And the bands, of course, are Tool, Primus, Mastodon, Coheed and Cambria, Eagles of Death Metal, King's X, Fishbone. Those two I'm really excited about. I'm glad they're out there with Primus. Something called Wheel, CKY, Moonwalker, and special guests Alex and Allison Gray.
I'm curious about how the lineup will be spread. So it says Tool is performing 2 sets. I assume that's 2 nights, right? 2 sets is spread across 2 nights.
Yeah.
And that means the rest of the bands play only 1 set during one of those 3 nights?
Details are forthcoming, I imagine, but those are reasonable guesses.
Do you picture Primus joining Tool on stage for a track?
I picture a lot of possibilities because I imagine, let's say one of these bands only plays on the 7th. I think they're going to stick around for the 8th and the 9th to make the most of it, and they may be invited up on stage to join some of their buddies in some jams or to guest on some tracks. So I am hopeful for a Primus and Tool super jam of some sort because most of the members of those 2 bands have already done that sort of thing. So why not do that on the beach? The stage is on the beach, I'm to understand. And so
I understand it's part of the Hard Rock Resort.
So that's the latest in the Primus world. Quite an interesting idea. I have my own opinions about destination festivals, and I will reserve them for myself. It's a very different thing for Primus to participate in this sort of thing. So
I'm curious, Josh. What does Hip Shot From The Slab even mean? I've never made heads or tails of that title.
Les told us that slab is a Buckethead term, and that is not surprising whatsoever because I do believe it appears more than once in the Buckethead universe. Hip shot, I'm not entirely certain. However, the Merriam-Webster dictionary defines...
I thought a hip shot is when someone fires a gun from the length of their hip.
So that's the first idea that came to mind for me as well. So it made me think about an old Western, you know, when they, with the showdowns at the OK Corral or whatever, the duels out in the middle of the street in these Westerns. That's where my mind went too. But the dictionary definition of a hip shot is having a dislocated hip.
Wow.
That sounds like a really morbid path to take. So if you have a hip shot from the slab, that sounds like you fell on hard concrete and dislocated your hip. That could be what it is. It also could be two guys having a gun duel on some concrete. On a,
But
some
but the,
kind
but
of
the slab, I mean, isn't a slab like where they put bodies in order to conduct a biopsy?
Oh, sure, or an autopsy, absolutely. It's usually referred to as the slab. Yeah, that's what a slab is, usually where bodies are set or interred, I suppose. So it's
So what is hip shot from the slab?
we have the pieces, we just have to put them together.
All right. Well, artists are not the kind of people that explain their art or delve too much into the meaning of their lyrics. And this is one song with very sparse lyrics. There's only one line, which is what you gonna do about it. But in an unlikely fashion, Les actually explained the meaning behind the lyric. How about we sample that explanation, Josh?
I would be happy to let Les Claypool explain this to us right now.
When I was a young fellow, I was taught many things by many people. People older than me, people that I looked up to, people that I respected. And for the most part, it was all good information. Some of it was a bit misguided. But I don't think there was any malicious intent in any of it. So I absorbed little tidbits and tadbits as I moved along. And I continue to move along, and I continue to look to my elders for information on how to make my way through this game we call life. I remember one time hanging out with my grandfather in his garage. And he had many interesting tools there, for he used to be a machinist. Every inch of every wall was some sort of mechanism. And I said, Granddad, what are we going to learn today? He said, today we're going to learn to solder. Solder, I said. Yes, solder. So we got out the irons and we plugged them in, and those were some big irons back then. And he pulled out these hunks of solder and these tins of flux. And that's where I learned to solder. So anytime I'm in need of soldering, I know that I can handle the task myself. Because my granddad looked at me and said, what you gonna do about it, huh? What you gonna do about it? What you gonna do about it?
And that's the legendary tool shit that we see recreated in the Over the Falls video. So those two songs tie together, Hip Shot from the Slab and Over the Falls.
Through learning to solder, Les got that inspiration and I heard that phrase a lot and used it here in Hip Shot. What I really like about that part is the way that Brain is doing those drum flourishes at first to make it much more Dada-esque, and then he fades out, and Bernie comes in with the angelic sounding keyboard tone, and it's as if and Les is telling it like an old man, so it's like he's on his deathbed or on his way to seeing the light at the end of the tunnel and talking about this as he's giving up the ghost. It's very funny.
Hip Shot from the Slab was performed a total of 11 times during the 2004 tour in support of the record. It was never performed live again. It was teased very briefly by the Fancy Band once in 2005, but that's as far as it got. And I've always thought that even by Les Claypool standards, this song is just bizarre. I think it's one of the most bizarre things he has ever put on a studio record.
I would agree with you. In fact, I wrote in my notes today, Frankie, this is my... You talked about this last week. This track, Hip Shot, is my I Dare You track on this record, as opposed to Elephant Ghost. This one, if you've weathered Buckethead and Thai Noodles and enjoyed the drive of Tyranny of the Hunt and then the Elephant Ghost 10-minute journey, this one is probably the most abrasive. And so
it's Resident's territory, right?
Yeah, it is. It's pretty far out there, like you said, even for Les. I mean, I remember not knowing what to do with this track the first time I heard it. You know, when I ran out and got the record and then sat down and listened to it in 2004. And this one certainly puzzled me, and it became probably the track I skipped. I think I skipped it a lot. When going through the CD, when I don't need that. I'm ready for the next track.
I totally get what you're saying. It baffled me as well back in 2004. I remember just looking at the track list and thinking, Hip Shot from the Slab, what does that even mean? And then listening to the record, and when he said, "What you gonna do about it?" I was like, about what? What is this song about? It drove me nuts.
Yeah, it is so abstract, and you don't know what he's asking you. Right? What am I going to do about what, man? Come on! And so it can be irritating to a degree. And it's funny because some of these tunes that we've discussed over the years now that we've done this, there's an element of mystery to them, but it's more inviting. And this one, the element of mystery is almost annoying. I think it's because it's in second person, because it feels like he's asking me, the listener, what I'm going to do about it. And my answer was always, well, I'm going to press the skip button. That's what I'm going to do about it. I don't want to hear this anymore. But it really is, on the surface, at first listen, is a noisy and disjointed mess. It's really far out there. So when we know that this band was very improvisational and experimental and was willing to do anything, and so I think it's interesting to me that this is something that they glommed onto from the live tapes from their improvised shows, and thought this is what we want to do for the record. And I mean, but there is a pocket in there. You just have to find it.
The baseline, I think, is one of the most consistent things on the record. And of course, we need to mention that this is one of the tracks where Les recruited Gabby's talents, both for the studio track and for the live renditions. Gabby is all over this song.
That's right. Gabby Lala is guesting on vocals, and she has a fun little vocal line that's she tracks it a couple of times, so you have one in each channel at least, and then you get some background Gabby vocalizations throughout, especially in the last minute. She's doing some things. I'm sure Les just said, just make stuff up, just do some stuff in the background for the last part of this tune, you know. And
how about we sample some of that studio cut to refresh people's ears?
What do you want to assault their ears with?
Whatever you want to play is fine.
Oh, good. So I'm held responsible for any negative outcomes here. Well, I actually wanted to go to near the last minute, because I think my favorite part is the vocal deliveries from Les and Gabby throughout, especially when the song, as much as it was put together, if it was at all, when it starts to fall apart at the end, even more so, I suppose, and fall away. There's some fun vocalizations. favorite thing's coming right up. Get off my land. That's it. You heard me.
I just remembered listening to that portion that this is a rainbow-based track.
Oh, it certainly has that tone to it and that elasticity that we talk about for sure.
Yes, this is a rainbow song. Absolutely.
Seems like he used the rainbow a lot on this record, and especially on the tours.
Ty Noodles, Hip Shot, Junior, Big Eyeball in the Sky.
That's a lot of nice rainbow on.
It's a rainbow heavy record. Yes, that's true.
And that's always welcome for sure. Our fandom of the rainbow bass, as well as the fretted six, is well documented. Yeah, those vocal deliveries at the end, I think, are my favorite part because you get some characterizations there, and I really love that low key delivery of "Get off my land." I think that's really funny. The things Gabby's doing, she's having some fun there, and she's affecting that cartoony voice that she uses throughout the record that she made with Les. It was actually really great to hear her voice on here. This might have been the first time I ever heard Gabby's voice. It was in 2004 when I picked up this record. Didn't know who she was, didn't have any idea. Hearing her voice, I was a bit mystified as to who this person was, but it was a welcome counterpoint.
But it must be highlighted that she had already worked with Les on Purple Onion. But yeah, in a more low-key way.
Right. We had heard some sitar.
Yes.
And on that record she was credited as Gabby Lang. This one, Gabby Lala. So
for the first time, yes.
Yeah, maybe I didn't put it together at the time. And of course, going forward, Gabby would play a pretty big role with Bernie Brains and the Fancy Band, and make a record with Les. And we talked to her about that. Had a great time with Gabby a while back. If you haven't heard that episode, it is episode number I don't know, but go find it. So this one, I really don't have a ton to say about this tune. I did say the vocalizations are probably my favorite part, in part because they are annoying. The repetition of what you're going to do about it. I mean, what they're doing there at the end that we sampled is a lot of fun. And I wrote down, Frankie, that honorable mention goes to the many different dissonant effects that Bucket's using throughout the tune. So he's not doing what he normally does to steal the show, so he's being much more sneaky in garnering attention and taking the spotlight with some of those effects that he's using, and the really fast picking, or maybe he's just working his left hand, a lot of hammer-ons and pull-offs. He's doing a lot of really fancy stuff that's really fast, but it's in short staccato bursts, and that's pretty fun. And it may lend to the annoyance that some people might feel from listening to this song as well, because the flow of the first 5 tracks, it just isn't present on this one.
One of the most challenging moments of the record, for sure.
Are you up for the challenge, Frankie? Do you routinely listen to this one?
Well, they actually step up the challenge during the live renditions because, as you can imagine, Hip Shot from the Slab became a jam vehicle.
I had no idea, especially looking at the lengths of these tracks that you sent me for live cuts later. 5.5, about 8 minutes, and the Denver cut is over 13 minutes. That beautiful music could only mean one thing, Frankie Berestein. It is time for Primates Takes. If you are interested in having your opinions about the track up for discussion read right here on the podcast, all you have to do is go to patreon.com/Primus Tracks. One of the universal constants there is I will post a thread for the track up for discussion and read the Primatrons' opinions here, otherwise known as Primates Takes. It starts, Frankie, with Anthony Del Prete, go Bills, who says any song with the word slab in the title gets my vote. Plus, Gabby's vocal stylings are super duper on this track. I wonder if Anthony's a mortician, given your ideas about the slab, Frankie, and that it's a winner in his book. Let's go to Mickey Waters, who says Hip Shot bleeds into Junior quite nicely, thematically and musically. So Mickey's making a connection between these two tracks here, with Hip Shot rallying the troops and Junior taking them out to war. Wow, that's an interesting. I never connected those two tracks before like that. Thanks, Mickey. Any you want to weigh in on that one, Frankie? That's an interesting idea.
Yeah, I mean, Junior is quite straightforward in terms of its lyrical content, whereas Hipshot is quite abstract. So I guess, as with any form of art, it is completely subjective. So you can make the connections as you please.
You are more than welcome to make all the connections you like, Primatrons. Let's hear from Jesse Calton, who says, is Bucket using a power drill on his guitar a la Eddie Van Halen? There are some parts where it sounds like he might be. He's moving so fast. He says, either way, the interplay between Bucket and Bernie gives this track its special sauce. Listen to that Bernie Steez. And then he asked, does anybody know what the slab is? And Jesse, I think I can confidently tell you that no, nobody knows what the slab is. Eric in Australia, Frankie, this track is of the album, but it doesn't stand out to me. I think this album is turning out to be more of its time for me. Brooks Delight, Frankie, breaks it down as such. Hipshot takes my vote for favorite track on the album. It's nothing fancy in comparison to other tracks, but it's just got this groove. It's fun to sing along with and easy to dance to. Super fun track.
Brooks, why would you say something so brave yet so controversial?
You can find Brooks' response to Frankie's query on Brooks Breaks It Down only on YouTube, which I really hope Brooks does that. And our pal Cam Covington replies to Brooks and says, I agree with that. The song just has a feel and vibe to it that others don't. Every time I hear it, I'm reminded of one of my high school football coaches. He'd yell, what are you going to do about it, boys? But in a very distinct Virginia accent, as we got smoked for something, which was every day. So, so it sounds like Cam was doing a lot of extra drills, thanks to Coach. That's an interesting personal connection. Frankie, I don't know if you've ever had I don't know if you've ever participated in organized sports, but when you have a really intense coach, I can relate to what Cam's talking about. I had a couple Taskmaster coaches back in the day. I think I can hear them in that what you gonna do about it, because we weren't doing it, and then we had to do more of it, and we were very tired. That's the Primates Takes. Thank you guys for weighing in on good old Hip Shot from the Slab.
I was thinking, Josh, while you were reading the takes, what if this is a classical play on words that Les does, where he rearranges an expression, but it's actually something very straightforward, like shoot from the hip, to speak in a very direct and honest way, to react quickly without thinking carefully about something. So I'm inclined to think that this is a play on shoot from the hip, and we just need to figure out what the deal is with the slab.
It's the big, if it's literal, of course, it's a big piece of concrete or stone or what have you. And that's about it, right? Maybe there is a corpse on a slab in an autopsy room, and it's saying rude things, speaking out of turn. That's like the dumbest suggestion I've ever made on this show. It's a tough one, Frankie. It's all up in the air. It's open to interpretation. It's one of the few times that Les keeps it abstract enough.
Yes, I mean, we can't figure out this last portion, but if we apply the shoot from the hip definition to the explanation that he gave at the Denver show, it could be that his grandfather used to shoot from the hip. Maybe that's how he explained things, or that's how he talked about the things that he knew.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. That's a common phrase to describe someone who reacts instantaneously or just says it, says what they're thinking, is shoot from the hip. So I'll buy that. And then, of course, with the inclusion of Buckethead's vernacular, that's where slab comes from. So that could mean anything. there's a lot of leeway there for interpretation, I suppose.
But I mean, a slab, what I'm looking at now is that it could also be some kind of foundation for a structure.
Sure. Yeah. If you pour a concrete slab, it's usually
Exactly.
square or rectangular, and it's nice and thick, like a foundation. Sure.
Yeah, so it's like a flat plate, a flat slab, waffle slab. There are all kinds of slabs. So okay, I think it has nothing to do with corpses or with autopsies. I think it's all about construction and fixing things, just like just like his grandfather taught him. So it's probably about how in this kind of environment or business of construction and repair, the people are straight shooters. Maybe they say you did that completely wrong, or that job is crap and you need to do it again, right? That's probably the meaning. That's what I'm inclined to believe.
That sounds like something a grandfather would say.
Yeah, like this isn't right. You need to fix this, right?
Yeah. And or just what you gonna do about it? Come on,
Exactly.
kid,
Yeah.
figure it out.
I think we cracked it. I think we cracked Hip Shot from the Slab.
We cracked it. So the concrete slab on which Grandpa's shed or garage sat is where Grandpa cracked off his one-liners
That's right.
at the young men that frequented his establishment.
That was tough.
I don't think I've ever worked so hard mentally to decipher a song title, and we could still be completely wrong.
Yes. I think that was as tough as calling Kyle.
Oh man, don't remind me.
Yes.
It's right up there. Yeah, we're gonna have to track our most Byzantine titles, the ones we had to work hardest to understand. Calling Kyle and Hip Shot right
Colin
up
Kyle
there.
had
in the top
all
two.
kinds of references in the lyrics to some really local things, some really specific things that, I mean, if you're not familiarized with the drug vernacular,
Yeah.
you would never make heads of tails of that song.
Wouldn't have been able to do it without old Tim Sawyer.
That's right.
I don't know how much.
Are you ready for those live cuts?
Let's reward ourselves. We have cracked the code, so we think. So let's hear some live cuts as a reward for our efforts and endeavors to expand the minds of our tens and tens of listeners. Live cuts.
A jam vehicle.
Live cuts. The Jam Vehicle. Live cuts.
A jam vehicle.
Live cuts. A true jam vehicle. Live cuts.
A jam vehicle.
Live cuts. The Jam Vehicle. Live cuts.
What's going on here? Shards of bone in my anus.
Our first live cut, Frankie, much like this track, is exceedingly frustrating because it's from your eyeball bonus tracks. Therefore, we don't know the city. We don't know the date. We just know it's Bernie Brains 2004.
I think I can tell you where this one is from. I remember I probably took this song from the Showbox in Seattle.
Showbox in Seattle. I'll buy it. Sounds like a traffic jam. Very different vibe live here, Frankie. I mean, it's largely there and intact, but it's a bit more interesting to me here in this live setting. Let's move ahead to about the 2-minute mark, as Frankie has indicated it in his notes. Gabby!
Here, Gabby. Can you hear it now? So, this guy's shaking his head. You can't hear him? Think a little bit, Gabby.
Brain going cool jazz pattern there.
Can you hear it now? All right.
Oh, move forward a little bit to your next time code.
What you gonna do about it, huh? What you gonna do about it? What you gonna do about it, huh? What you gonna do about it?
There you go, Bernie. What I like about this, too, is they're all taking a turn on that pattern that Gabby sings. Like, Bucket did it, Bernie was doing it, Brain's approximating it on the drums. So that's kind of the crux of it. And then everybody gets a chance to do something, including the techs who take care of the Gabby microphone problem. They're the real heroes.
I just love when they fix technical issues on a soundboard recording and we get to hear it over and over and over.
Get to hear it on the fly, yeah.
Yes.
Let's go to Denver to this 13-minute version of Hip Shot. We will spare you most of the 13 minutes. We're going to start a little over halfway through and see what's going on here.
What you gonna do, Betty? What you gonna do, Betty, huh? What you gonna do, Betty? What you gonna do, Betty, huh? What you gonna do, Betty? What you gonna do, Betty, huh?
Frankie, you are grooving right now, man. You love this track.
It's so good live. It's so catchy.
I'm starting to see the light from what Brooks and Cam had to say. It does sound like it's pretty danceable here. But I'm not at the show, and I have to stay within range of this microphone, so you will not see me or hear me or witness me dancing in any way. Probably ever. Let's move ahead to about the 10-minute mark of this track, see what they're up to. Whoa, huge shift. Oh, I love what Brain's doing. Free jazz, baby. Boy, they're certainly taking us places here. I'm looking forward to the outro. We're going to see how they wrap up a 13-minute rendition of Hip Shot from the Slab. And it ends in ambient fashion. Why not?
I just love how Les would say backstage, we're jamming on Hip Shot from the Slab for 13 minutes tonight, and by the end, it's not going to resemble anything remotely like the studio track, and everybody probably just went, let's do it.
You bet. And such was the beauty of this band, and the ability to take those risks, as they told us, because they all could play. Somebody could fill in if something didn't work out right, and take the lead and take them somewhere else. So they certainly seem to be having fun there. That Brain was doing some really cool stuff. A lot of different great patterns there. Our last cut, Frankie, also does not have any metadata. This is from your tour selections.
Oh, mysterious.
This is another track of mystery. Let's try to narrow it down. There's only 11 performances. We already know 2 of them. Sounds like San Francisco to me. Just making that up. Are you conducting over there? Is that what you're doing? I do wonder what those effects Bucket's using there, and how he's operating with his hands, because he's recreating what he did in the studio very nicely, but it's mysterious as to how he does it. Lots of mystery surrounding this track, Frankie. This is our most mysterious. We used to have the Primus Mystery of the Week. The entire track is a mystery.
Mystery of the album, for sure.
Yes, mystery of the album. It may never be deciphered. We gave it a shot. A hip shot, as it were. Let's move ahead about halfway through this track. This is familiar. Nice. Man, they're definitely in sync and in tune and everything else with one another, because they are just, hearing those transitions and firing away. What an interesting track. Maybe I'll listen to it once or twice more in my life, Frankie. It's just not a go-to one for me, and so I'm still reeling that it's a favorite for a couple of our Primatrons. So, and more power to them for seeing the greatness within it. It's funny because I like challenging music, but this one never grabbed me in that way. I'll give it another hip shot. So, hip shot, get off my land. You've been tracked. Next time, Frankie, we're going to talk about track 6 of the record, and it is simply called Junior.
Quite an interesting track you all have there.
I understood that reference. Primates, Primatrons, people of Earth, thank you all so much for listening to this mysterious track and what ended up being possibly a mysterious episode. Because you're probably wondering, why do they care so much about the title?
Are you going to recreate the Yeehaw next week for Junior?
Oh, I've been practicing, yes.
Great.
No spoilers, but next week for sure.
Unleash it, yes. Unleash it on the episode.
Unleash it. I will. Later days.
Willie Mays.
Get off my land.